Easter is upon us and we need to eat, something nice, something comforting, something that you can eat with your family, stuff like that. I decided to eat lamb, but I'm gonna make a soup out of lamb. I'm gonna be taking a cue from Taiwanese beef noodle soup, but instead of using beef shanks, I'm gonna use lamb shank. So what we're gonna start off is I have a beef shank. I have a lamb shank. Just a nice, simple, beautiful lamb shank with the bone, of course. It'll add flavor and stuff. We're gonna sort of just brown this in a pan and then set it aside. So I'll show you. So I'm heating up some stock over here, and here I just want to sear it, but it's not making any noise, so my oil is not hot enough, so we'll wait. In the meantime, we can take care of our aromatics. I always have the creepy angle when I do my stuff. Take care of our aromatics for the stock. It's gonna be really simple, okay? I have a leftover onion, garlic, chilies, but I want a little bit, of course, some ginger. Everything can be really like roughly cut because it's all going to be strained afterwards. I want more garlic because I love garlic, so we're going to put an entire bulb in there, cut in half. Look at that beautiful cross section. What goes? No, goes. Goes as usual, trying to ruin my my cooking videos or improve them, I suppose. So everything's going to be like really coarse. Green onions, of course. We're gonna put the oniony part of the green onions in there. These are gonna use for garnish. Get out of here. Get out of here. Put back in the fridge. What else are we gonna use? Carrots, but carrots are a bit less I don't think I've ever seen carrots in it, but I'm gonna put carrots. It's gonna add a little bit of sweetness. Once again, just kind of rough chop. I'm gonna put this one aside, I don't need it. Leek. The thing about leeks is, they often have dirt in them, unless, depending on where you get them. Well, any good leek should have dirt because the way they grow, they grow upwards, and if you can see from the structure of the leek, as they grow upwards, right, all the dirt would get trapped in between these. But this one looks really clean, at least this part looks clean. So yeah, you can see here, there's, checking my own thing, but yeah, there's like dirt in the leek, so usually you want to give them a good rinse. This part usually tends to be pretty dirty. I'm gonna go rinse them, put them with the other aromatics. Once again, roughly chopped, doesn't matter. Oil is getting hot. I can smell that the oil is getting hot, so I'm gonna sear it. You'll hear the sound. You can hear it sizzle. It's a light sizzle. I just want to brown every side. So we're gonna let this do its thing. It's not gonna overcook, I promise you, because lamb shanks are a slow, tough cut. So you really want to kind of develop that flavor. Next, apple. Apple is gonna bring a lot of sweetness. You don't even need to remove the core. Apple is gonna bring a lot of sweetness to this, which we want. It's gonna add depth, and fruits with lamb usually go really well. And I would add a tomato, but I don't have any tomatoes, so I'll add a little bit of tomato paste. It's gonna add more depth too, so it doesn't really matter too much. Now we're gonna get into more sort of ingredients that you may not have at home, but that I always recommend you should have in your pantry. So we have Doubanjiang. This one is a broad bean based Doubanjiang from the Xi'an region of China. I really like this brand. You can also find it under the name chili bean paste. I'm sure Li Kamki or other brands sell in most stores. You can use gochujang. It won't be the same, but gochujang is similar. It's a chili bean paste, but it's way more sweet, and it's soybean based instead. There are soybean based doubanjiang, especially like Taiwanese doubanjiang. And this is a Taiwanese dish after all. I don't have any soybean based doubanjiang, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a tiny bit of miso for complexity. The next thing that you may not have at home is all these things that I took out. So one thing you want, ideally, is a Chinese, or I don't know if it's Chinese, but I always heard it called a Chinese black cardamom. So these are these little pods that are just like green cardamom, are pods that contain a bunch of seeds. And as you can see, these are kind of big, and the smell is insane. It's so good. It smells like it smells smoky, almost mushroomy, very meaty. So you want to crush them to release the seeds, but you can put them everything. Something else I want, cinnamon. I'll put 2 sticks. Even better is if you kind of lightly char your cinnamon right before you use it, like you burn it or you put it into a pan and kind of let it char. Next, this ingredient, one of my favorite ingredients in the world, Sichuan peppercorns. This is prickly ash little fruits, and they're dried, and they smell really good. They have a tiny fruity smell, almost citrusy, and they give this numbing sensation when you eat them. This I'll put like a, handful. I love Sichuan peppercorn, and I have sansho as well, which is the Japanese variety. Sansho is a bit more piney, a bit more herbaceous, less citrusy, I find. And this one's like my nice sansho. And sansho is a bit more kind of greenish purple instead of you can see also the berries are kind of differently shaped. Oh, it smells so good. It smells insanely good. I know I said it's less citrusy, but it still smells very, very pungent and very citrusy. I'll add a little bit because, Taiwan, Chinese and Japanese influence. So a little bit of sansho, not too much. Of course, a little bit of white pepper. You want to add a little bit of ground pepper at the end as garnish, but I'm going to put a tiny bit of my nice ground pepper in here in my spice mix. Just a little bit, not too much, because the white pepper is actually quite strong. Another ingredient that you should put in there that you may not have, but I recommend you have, star anise. It's called star anise because it looks like little stars. This smells like licorice, smells like a fennel. It's delicious. I love it. One of my favorite ingredients once again. This one I'll also put a little small handful. Oh, the smell of the roasting lamb is out of this world. Coriander seeds, found lots of cooking, just a tiny bit of coriander seeds. I'm gonna put a little bit of fennel, even though I already have a star anise, but it's not mutually exclusive. They both taste similar, but it's not mutually exclusive. As you can see, of course the irregular shape makes it hard to brown, but you just want to give it a little bit of browning on each side, make it develop some color. It's gonna add some depth. It's gonna add some roastiness to your stock. You also render some of the lamb fat. Actually, it's brown enough to my liking on the sides. So next up, I didn't even notice, but I lost some footage of a video, it stopped recording. So I'll show you what I did, even though it's not kind of, I guess, a waste of time. But I added doubanjiang, and I fried the doubanjiang in oil. Then I added miso, fried the miso with the doubanjiang in the oil a little bit. Then I added tomato paste, cooked the tomato paste down. I added all my aromatics, sauteed my aromatics with the flavored oil. Added back my shank, added some rock sugar. I added some soy sauce. I added more tomato paste, a little bit. I added my apples. And then I added all my dry spices, which I also tried to cook a little bit in the oil. I put back my my lamb shank. I added liquid, which in this case was a light beef and pork broth. I added it and a bit of water. I added it so that it would half cover the shank, and I'm just letting it simmer for a while. We're just gonna cover it and let it simmer for 3 or so hours. We'll see. You want to simmer it until the shank gets tender and has a nice bite to it, but you know, some people might want it to fall off the bone. I prefer a little bit of a bite to it, but you can kind of cook this until your desired texture for the lamb. So the next step is going to be to show Mips. Mips! And we also, of course, just relaxing. He got scared by the fire alarm, but now you know he's doing okay. I think that's gonna be the end of the video for now, and I'll be back when the soup's ready. So it's been around 3 hours, maybe a bit less, 2.5 hours, something like that. It's dark now, and the soup. So as you can see, the shank is getting tender. Maybe it's a bit too tender for my tastes. I take a vessel, take the shank, which is now extremely tender. I slightly overcooked it, but it's still gonna be delicious. Overcooked it for my tastes, but a lot of people prefer when lamb shank has this texture and is like super succulent, fall off the bone, so that it doesn't dry out. Because we want to eat this tomorrow for Easter, and we want it to cool down in like an optimal environment. So what we're gonna do is gonna store it with the braising liquid, but we want the braising liquid to cool down quickly. We want all of this to cool down kind of quickly. So we're just gonna cover this, you know, nothing crazy. We're gonna use cling film to kind of seal this so that moisture does not escape. And we're gonna store it in the fridge and we're gonna cool it down this way. Then what we're gonna do with this is we're going to strain it. Coast is trying to intrude onto my territory because he likes the smell of lamb fat, but I will not let him have it because there's so much stuff in here that's bad for cats. Now this has been going for so long. If you taste these vegetables, they're all gonna be flavorless, and they give all their goodness to the stew. And the lamb, you know, not necessarily the lamb. The lamb still has some flavor to it, considering the fact that it's meat, and meat has a long peak extraction time. But the lamb did give a lot. Like, you can definitely smell the lamb fat and everything. And then the last little pieces, I'll just kind of pour it like this. I'm a bit weak. There's really not that much liquid left, which is kind of the point. This is not the liquid that we're gonna drink as our soup, though you could. A lot of people do, but traditionally, or at least in the versions that I've seen, yeah, this is not a traditional meal by any means. I'm kind of just inspiring myself from Taiwanese beef noodle soup, but I'm using lamb and I'm using other aromatics that I enjoy that I think would pair well in here. But you know, now that we have our stock, it's a perfect time to, well, stock, our braising liquid, you know, it's a perfect time to sort of taste it. A little bit spicy. just the way I like it. Could take some more spice, but you know the toppings are gonna have more spice. I think it's well balanced. It's got heat, it's got savoriness, it's got some sweetness. I think some people might prefer sweeter than this, but the way I like this soup, I think this has a good amount of sweetness. Lots of smokiness. Maybe I'd put less black cardamom next time and a bit more star anise. You definitely taste the piney, citrusy aspect of the strong peppercorns. I'm not gonna adjust this because I think it's very delicious. And you'll see when we assemble the soup, but there will be more stuff going on than just what we have right now. What you can do with this, which I think you should do with most stocks and braising liquids, because they're always useful, is just to store it in a container. This is a 1 liter container. And you want to let it cool down this way. I'll let it cool down. If you have an ice bath, you know, circulator ice bath, circulate cold water around it, and that'll help cool it down faster. I'm not in a rush, and so I'm just kind of gonna let it cool down slowly on its own, and then I'll store in the fridge when it's kind of room temp. And you don't want to close it, because otherwise the gas expansion in here, and when it cools down, it's gonna kind of shrink on itself. So you just kind of want to leave it slightly open and let it cool down on its own. I'll come back tomorrow and we'll assemble the soup. You'll see it's really simple. Yeah, that's about it. You know, Kos is kind of sleepy, you can see. It's a bit late. I just fed him, so he's relaxing. And we have Mips too. Mips! And yeah, we'll build the soup tomorrow. It's gonna be nice. So it's the next day, and it's time to make actually like assemble our soup. All that's left really is reheat the meat, reheat the broth, reheat the kind of poaching liquid, and then making, you know, assembling the stuff. Oh, and of course cooking noodles, which I should start right now. At home I have these fresh alkaline noodles that were then dried. These are pretty nice, so I'm gonna use these. I'm gonna boil them. They're really old though, so maybe they'll end up really bad, we'll see. For toppings, we're gonna have cilantro and green onions that we reserved from yesterday. These are gonna kind of go together on top, so don't need to be too nice with them. Is it redundant to say topping on top? The green onions bring a little fresh bite, and the cilantro brings a nice, you know, herbaceous kind of break in between your bites. Other thing, bok choy. These are young variety of bok choy. My plan with these is to only use a few leaves, blanch them in the same liquid I'm going to cook my noodles in. I think this is enough. Smaller ones you can leave them as is, bigger ones maybe split them in half. Like so. But you know, put as much effort as you want the prettiness of the dish to come out. Full bok choy custard. This is daikon. I only have a small piece left. Well, small. It's still pretty big. I don't want too much daikon. The rest you can pickle or use in other applications. And you can peel it because the skin's pretty tough. I'm peeling it like this because that's how I like doing it. That's how I do it at my job. Peeled daikon, compost it, do it something nice with it. What kind of coins? Thin but not too thin. You still want them to have a bite when they go into the hot liquid. I think actually that's gonna be enough for me. So I have my daikon coins. We have our bowl that we're gonna serve everything. I like to put a tiny bit of soy sauce, tiny bit of a different kind of soy sauce, because you know, different soy sauces have different flavors, and a raw soy sauce doesn't taste the same as cooked soy sauce. So even though we have cooked soy sauce in our food, it's nice to have a little bit of raw soy sauce as well. A little bit of white pepper, like any spice is nice when grinded by hand. You don't need too much, just adding a little bit to remind you of what's inside and whatever goes a long way. Sorry about the noise. Tiny bit of white pepper. So, you know, I'm waiting for my my water to boil. I have my daikon, I have my bok choy, I have this. Oh yeah, something else you want to add to your broth is a tiny bit of black vinegar. I think it goes very nicely. Gives it a little kick. Ooh, it goes. So our water is boiling. Our pork stock is also boiling. Oh yeah, look at that beautiful angle. We're gonna go to low, medium, high heat. I'm gonna add a tiny bit of oil. One ingredient I want to put in here in my dish is our, as I've talked about, fermented mustard greens. So I took a small piece, you know, nothing too crazy, and I want to it's got a wonderful sour smell, sour taste. I think it's even better after like a month or so, but 2 weeks is a bit more than 2 weeks is very nice as well. I'm gonna add garlic. If you're really, you know, professional about it, you remove the germ. How do you remove the germ? You go like this, and then you can see the inside, what it looks like, and remove the germ. Remove the germ. You don't have to, you know, I'm not going to. I removed it just to show, but roughly chop chili. Spicy, of course. If not, what are you doing, you know? And it smells so good. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put these together in the oil. Get the oil fragrant, and we're gonna add this. We're gonna go back. Yeah. As soon as they start to smell, get your mustard green. Just kind of lightly cook them together. You want to add just like a bit of sugar. Oh yeah, it smells so nice. Taste delicious. Sweet and sour. You want to let this cool down. You don't want it to be too hot. I think it tastes better when it's cold. Well, we're just cooking our noodles. Follow package instructions when making noodles. So it's 4:08 right now. So at 4:11 I'm gonna. Why do you eat so early? Well, because I work in a restaurant, we eat staff meal around 3 o'clock. So my I got used to eating food at around this time because you can't eat during service. You eat during you eat before service. Therefore, eating at 3 or 4 seems like a good idea, right? While I wait for these to cook, I'm going to do the dishes. Rice noodles could work really nicely too, I think. You know, like what you'd find in pho, for example. I think would be a beautiful yeah, it'd be pretty nice. Alright, it's been the adequate amount of time. We're gonna strain this and rinse with cold water. I'm trying to keep my water, so I'm using a spider to transfer the noodles because I want to blanch my bok choy. It doesn't have to be long for this because you still want to be crisp, nice and tender. How do you know you've blanched something long enough? As soon as the color becomes beautiful, you're good. And you'll see it's a bit tender, it's nice. So yeah, as soon as the color becomes beautiful, you know you're good. And then what you want to do, you want to rinse this with cold water. Rinse with cold water to stop the bok choy from cooking. And you want to rinse the noodles to stop also them from cooking and to become, not to be too sticky and starchy and whatever. This is our lamb from yesterday. And I let it cook in, not cook, but cool down in the liquid because that way it becomes juicy and tender and absorbs the liquid. Because otherwise it might dry out. And that's why it's always better to eat stews the next day. And one thing that's interesting is, look at that gelatinous, beautiful, you know, liquid. We want that. We want that to flavor our stock. You can eat this as your stock, but the way I've done it, I've seen it done is you use this kind of more as a topping. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna pick some meat out of this and put it in our pot. We're gonna take this and we're really just gonna kind of take a big chunk and put it in here. I think that chunk is gonna be very nice. I'm not really gonna break it apart. Maybe a little bit into large chunks, but like, so good. Actually, no, I'm not even gonna. Oh, another beautiful chunk. I think that's gonna be enough. That's a large amount of sauce. And instead of adding this, which has all the little kind of impurities in it, I'm gonna add our nice, also gelatinous, but less so, liquid from yesterday that we reserved on the side. Only a little bit, just enough to like warm through and use that as like a flavoring agent. Right now, you know, our stock has fully cooked. It's steaming. You can see the steam coming out. This is our pork stock. This is just some pork bones boiled with ginger and scallions, nothing else. This is our mixture of vinegar and soy sauce and our noodles. Think about it. It's Easter. You're eating a beautiful feast of lamb with your loved ones. So you want to try to make it nice. You don't have to make it nice, you know, you make it as nice as you think the people who eat it deserve it to be nice, but I think food is a nice way to show love and appreciation, so I want to try to make it somewhat nice, but plating has never been my strong suit. And who am I making this for? I'm making this for myself. You know, it's important to show self-love and appreciation. Or at least I think so. Okay, our lamb is heating. You can hear the bubbling. In the meantime, while you wait for stuff to cook through, you can always do more dishes. Alright, so our lime should be heated through and our broth is warm. So, we're gonna add our pork broth. Our pork broth is unseasoned. Like it has no salt. I always make my stocks without salt, so that way I can control how I want to flavor it when the time comes. And next, and certainly I would say the part that makes this, at least for me, special is the lamb, which, like I said, personally, I kind of think I cooked it maybe a bit too long. I think it's a bit too tender for my tastes. I prefer when it has a little bit more bite to it. But I know that a lot of people love, soft, succulent, delicious meat. So I don't think it's gonna be a big deal for most people if they follow my kind of 3-hour instruction. So I'm gonna taste the pork broth right now with the vinegar and the soy sauces that I added. It's delicious, very mild. And then we're gonna add this. You can add as much as you want or as little as you want. This is a flavoring agent. You can think of it as like almost like a tare from when you make ramen or things like that. And oh, the flavor. Oh yeah. I'm gonna put a little bit more. Like I said, this liquid itself could be a very nice broth. It's just that it's very, very, very strong. So if you want milder flavors or whatever, I think maybe don't go that route. Another good topping for this would be to use whole skin-on peanuts that were fried. Kind of like Chinese style. I think that would be a very good that'd be a very good topping as well, especially if you fry the peanuts yourself and the oil kind of gets like a peanutty flavor. I think adding a little bit of that peanutty oil, getting like nuttiness in your dish would be really good. I'm adding chili oil because I love what chili oil does to this, especially if it's a homemade. And finally, I'm gonna hide all our hard work with greens. All our hard work of making it beautiful with greens. And look at that, beautiful. No matter what I do, there's gonna be the shade of And then what do? You do what you always do with food. You destroy it. But look at that. That's still fucking beautiful. I mean, come on now. It's just ridiculous. And we'll give it one last taste after mixing everything. Ah! Mm. Oh. Tastes exactly like how I want it to. We're gonna go see the cats, tell them the happy news. Meeps, the soup is a success! And Jesus is back. Oh my god, the Holy Kos. Kos! The food, it came out good. Wow. Look at him, he's so sleepy, he doesn't care. Ah, beautiful.